Hi everyone, I'm Daniel, and this is a surprise. Today at Gen Con, well, not really released, but maybe leaked on to Fantasy Flight Games' website, people found that there is now Parallel Jenny. So let's take a look at this together and talk about some of her potential options with the new deck building. So if you're not familiar about Parallel Investigators, so this is a PDF, by the way. I'll put in the link description. Parallel Investigators, you can use basically either the new front side or the new back side or both along with their original. So this is a print and play investigator that sort of mixes up the original investigators options as well as we'll see in a second their signature cards. So we already have a lot of these out already. I've played a few, maybe just one on the channel. I played Parallel Monterey Jack, which was kind of a strange thing that Monterey Jack came out early this year instead of Jenny, because this whole cycle they have been releasing all of the Parallel Dunwich investigators. So now we finally have Jenny. Why they waited, I don't know. Maybe because of the tie-in with the new comic book. I think that's sort of the idea here. The art, as we're going to see here, is I think up from the comic book. So yeah, let me make sure that I'm not blocking all the stuff on the screen here. Let's take a look at her front side. So you can see the cool parallel art there, as well as as they do the reverse black and white on all the stats and the name. And like before, Parallel Jenny has 3-3-3-3. And has a drifter and a socialite and 8-7 for health and sanity. The rest of it here, though, is totally different. She has this reaction after your turn begins. Play a talent asset, reducing its cost by 1, little reminiscent of Leo Anderson. And then the free triggered ability to discard a talent asset you control, gain resources equal to that asset's printed cost, limit 5 resources per round. So there's no limit on this in terms of number of assets that you can discard. It's just how many resources you can get out of it. I think so. So it's probably if you were to discard something that was worth 3 and then another thing that's worth 3, you'd still just get 5. I don't think you fail to discard the second one, but I'm actually not totally sure on the rules there. Notably that there's no requirement here to discard the talent asset during your turn. So during the free triggered ability, during a test on someone else's turn, or during the Mythos phase, or just during someone else's turn altogether, or at the end of the Mythos phase for that matter, you can discard a talent and then play another one after your turn begins. So that first reaction you can still do, but it only has to happen at the beginning of your turn. That same Leo Anderson reaction window. And the reason I sort of point out that whole, oh, well, you can discard something, then play something else, is a few talents, as we'll see if we go through the list, are a limit 1 in play. So you might want to, cheekily discard one and then play another copy of it, or a similar traded one from your hand when your turn actually begins. So maybe there's some bouncing of these abilities between each other. I don't know. Honestly, I think that the discarding a talent asset part is just a little bit of a throw-in. I don't think you want to discard things that often. Assets like talents are pretty useful to just get into play. So why you're getting rid of them, even for maybe a couple of resources, is maybe not worth it unless you have a lot of card draw and can continually refill your hand of new assets to play, new talents. To be fair, most talents I don't think take up any slots, so you can just keep stacking these. Anyway, let's take a look. Oh, one last thing is her Elder Sign is different as well. I believe the other one, the original one, was plus X, which is the number of resources you have. This time it's plus 0, but if you succeed, you gain 3 resources, which is a souped up version of Skid's original Skid's O'Toole, although he gave you a plus 2 to help you pass. So the investigator, as you can see here, and we start to look at the talents, really is a stat-driven investigator, right? The 3s are pretty low, but the talents are supposed to make up for that. So the Elder Sign, probably you don't need the plus, more than 0 to pass. You should be passing anyway, but gaining 3 resources sounds pretty nice. So talent assets. Let's take a look at her backside. Remember, you can use either the original front or this front. and mix and match with this back or the original back. So I'm not going to talk about too much of any theory crafting of why you might want to have one versus the other. Let's just think of Parallel Jenny as just one investigator with the back and front we're looking at. So deck size of 30, it's normal. The rogue cards now is just down to 0 to 3. So she misses a good chunk of the exceptional cards, the level 4s and 5s that make rogues very powerful. So something like Red Clock 5, Double Double, which is level 4. Those are even more XP, of course, but she can take things like Black Fan, which is level 3, but exceptional. Okay, I'm not seeing a whole lot that is that interesting there that she's missing out on from level 4 and 5, but if you've played Finn, you know how kind of annoying that can be. There's just so many good level 3 cards and level 3 allies in particular in Rogue that I don't think this is that big of a deal, but hey, we'll find out. However, her off-class options are now up to 10 cards, other non-permanent talent cards level 0 to 5. So she gets access to everything in the game that is talent traded. I believe these are only assets. I don't think we have any talents that are on skills or events, but we're going to find out in a second. Notably, these are the non-permanent ones. So no higher education 3, no scrapper level 3, etc. Okay. Deck building requirements are the same as before, but now we have an option to have the advanced signatures. So if you have one of these, you have to take the other one. As far as I know from this very limited page that we have here, there's no scenario that lets you upgrade or downgrade these cards. So either you have the original Twin 45s and the original Searching for Izzy, or you have the advanced Twin 45s and the advanced Searching for Izzy. Okay, the advanced Twin 45s, they look very similar. You have a bunch of ammo based on how much you put into it. So you spend however many resources you want, and then that's how many ammo get put onto it. However, we have a way of getting some money back. The reaction ability is new. After you defeat an enemy using the above ability, exhaust Jenny's Twin 45s gain resources equal to that enemy's printed health. That could be a lot, right? You could use other weapons or events or something to whittle down an enemy and just use your ammo to like finish off a conglomeration of spheres and then get 6 resources. That's crazy. So I think this is a really neat gun. I've noticed that, of course, the advanced signatures are all, I'm not going to say busted, but they're all quite strong and fun to build around, especially when you get them to play. You're like, okay, how can I make even more use of this? But I think with this in particular, you kind of make a decision when you play the card, like, I can get a lot of resources back. Can I invest a lot into it in the first place to keep getting resource generation? I'm thinking even of something like wearing the stylish coat, which gives you another resource, which you could use, I suppose, for her ability on her card too, to get an extra resource. So I think that's a pretty cool card for her, stylish coat from the Scarlet Keys. Let's take a look at Searching for Izzy. Always was a rough card. Attach Searching for Izzy to the location farthest from you. This time it says attached location gets +2 Shroud, and that's true for any investigations, not just for the one that you are doing on the card here. The original one didn't give you any additional Shroud, but it did have the double action Investigate. Instead of discovering clues, discard Searching for Izzy. When the game ends, if it's still in play, you get 1 mental trauma. So that's if you're defeated or the game ends. Otherwise, you get the trauma. Most of the time when I've played Jenny, Searching for Izzy is something solved by someone else, or you need to get your skill value up pretty high. The +2 Shroud, I think, is just, it's obscuring fog that comes along with it. It's annoying because if it attaches to a location that you have yet to go to, and you don't know what that shroud's going to be, it might be pretty difficult to get around it. And you can't really ignore this effect entirely. If you say, I don't care about the trauma, you still get the +2 Shroud, which admittedly is not that big of a deal. But the double action, I think, is the most annoying part, because if you fail, you've lost 2 actions and you'll have to lose 2 more to try to get rid of it. But that's sort of par for the course for all of the advanced weaknesses. I think they are a little bit nasty, but The twin 45s, I think, can get you way ahead to try to pass this test. If you're playing Streetwise, the level 3 one in Rogue, because that is permanent, you can still take it. Um, you can hopefully just bypass that +2 shroud no problem. So I think that this is an okay compromise with the two. All right. Um, let's look at this whole thing together. Now you can kind of see her front side and then just the new deck building requirements or options rather. This is kind of neat. I actually thought that Parallel Lola was going to do something with talents. It seemed to make more sense with her background. Like, why is it that Jenny has the talent thing? I suppose having all threes originally, there was something about that made sense of like you could use any of these stats and in the talents, because as we'll see in a second, most of them are just stat boosting. Maybe that's why. But you might have seen me on playing board games a few weeks ago. Justin interviewed me and asked the question of what do I rather see, Parallel Jenny or Parallel Lola? And I kind of said that something like this would happen for Lola, and haha, it's for Jenny. Okay, well, I think it's still kind of neat. I think I like that idea of being able to play assets fast always. And I don't know how much else I feel about this before I look at what talents you might put in, because otherwise, there's really no point in this front side. If you don't have a cool plan for talents, then why are you doing this? I think that just getting extra resources every turn for anything is just way better. Um, but probably not super different, right? It's just giving you an extra action and the extra resource as long as you keep refilling your hand with talents and have things that you want to actually play. And I, without having played her at all, right, I have no idea if you're actually going to be using that ability most turns or if it's just a cool little bonus and really it's the deck building that makes her strong. For Leo Anderson, it's kind of a similar question. And some people do play Leo Anderson to be more of a meat grinder where you really are playing an ally almost every turn. And that's really, really good. I just don't know if talents yet are like that. Okay, let's take a look at them then. I've put all of the talents that are not permanent. There's 91 of them, although there's quite a few duplicates because we're looking at the revised cores in here too. And then there's just some duplicates otherwise. And I've sorted them by cost. I don't know why, but they are. Oh, I know why. Because there's an interesting sort of outstanding question. Let's go back to Jenny. About this ability here. Discard a talent asset you control is the cost, and the effect is gain resources equal to that asset's printed cost. So, you know, there's somewhat of a rule that says you can't initiate abilities that the effect does nothing. In other words, the effect doesn't change the game state. So there's a question that I don't have an answer to, and you can think about this yourself. Can you discard a talent asset that you control that costs 0 because you would be gaining 0 resources? Why would you want to do that? You'll see in a second, but I'm not sure that the rules contemplate this extremely well, and I don't know with something like this if the designers thought about this. But when you look at the list here, the very first thing here is kleptomania, which is hilarious. This is a talent, it's a weakness too, that annoyingly always gets shuffled back into your deck when you take the action on it. How do you get rid of this thing? You shuffle it back in your deck and you keep seeing it over and over because you're a klepto. Well, if you could use Jenny to discard this, that would be pretty cool, but it's got a null cost, so not sure if you're allowed to do this. Now, we've got a lot of level 0, a lot of level 0, sure, but a lot of 0 cost talents here as well. Some of them you would have no interest in discarding, like there's no point in discarding Arcane Studies here, although it's cool that she can take it, level 2. She could always take the level 0. But when you get to something like grounded's a bad example. Physical training. Here we go. Nope, not physical training. I want, scientific theory. This one is a composure that is limit 1 per 1 in play. It's also a talent, so she can take this. But because of the rules about limit 1 per, you can't try to play another one if this is in play. What you could do is discard the one that's in play and then play another composure, like either the same title or a different one. So if you, let's say, had scientific theory in play because you're doing a lot of investigating and a lot of combat, but then you in a later round decide that what you really want is Moxie in play instead because it does the other. Nope, not that one. We want the level 3 one because it's just better. And cost 0. This one is the other two stats, right? Willpower and agility, and maybe you really want that a different round. How do you get rid of the scientific theory? You can't unless you assign damage or horror to that, which is not always possible, but maybe using Jenny's ability could get rid of it. So I don't know if the rules support that, but that's just something to think about. Okay, let's look at the actual list here. So the level 3 composures, you can get them all. They're really fun and they're good. They allow her to use her money, which otherwise could be generating from rogue cards, right? And yeah, we got combat training, we've got Moxie and scientific theory that you just saw, and then plucky down here. This one is willpower and intellect. I think it's fantastic. Grounded is the one she probably doesn't want because it's using spell cards, but who knows? Maybe there's a spell parallel Jenny that's worth playing. Okay, also has a little bit better soak. We have just the other talents that are from the core set and Return to Night of the Zealot, like Dig Deep, Arcane Studies. Again, she could always get the level 0 ones, but now she could take more of them since she has access to 10 cards instead of 5. And then she gets the level 4 ones, which are a little bit later on the list as well. What else do we have? We have Drawing Thin, Busted card, which I guess is just no reason not to take this, I suppose, if you're not playing Taboo. Forbidden Knowledge, I don't think she wants this to take horror on command and then get some extra resources. Probably doesn't make any sense. The level 0 higher education is not permanent, so she could take that. But why? Just probably take the, what is it? The Arcane Studies? Yeah, that would be fine. Anything else interesting here? Relentless? No, don't play this, please. Burglary. So remember that now, once we get to the ones that cost 1, they are gonna be free, right, to play and cost, only 0 resources. So is this better than it used to be because it's easier to put down on the table? Sure, but it's still pretty bad. Burglary 2, she could always take. Of course, these are rogue cards. I still like the idea of putting the rogue cards one. They don't actually take up that 10 card limit. And, Lone Wolf at the beginning of your turn, when your turn begins, after your turn begins. Oh, that's too bad. Okay, so she can't play that and then get the money off of Lone Wolf. Well, that's just the way things go with timing in Arkham. Anyway, Scavenging, so she could always take the level 0, but now she gets the level 2 version, which is quite powerful, right? She can do some pretty big investigates with the rogue card pool and then get a free play of an item from the discard pile. Really, really good. What else is here that's interesting? So yeah, there's a couple of talents here that she can't take because they're signature cards like Showmanship. Speak to the Dead? I don't know. Maybe there's the spell thing I'm talking about. Ritual Event too. No, you're just not going to do that. Like I said before, the level 4 versions of these talents are incredible, and she probably wants to pick like maybe 2 of them. That might be 4 of the 10 cards. I don't know which ones, but that's up to you. Cornered, I don't think is something she wants, but I guess it could be. Now, this is the big one that people have been talking about, which is Empirical Hypothesis, which is for some reason a talent. I don't know why, but since it is a 0 to 5 access that she has for talents, this very easily can be 2 of those cards, and you get to check, all 10 of the boxes. Now, I don't know how much you need to do that, because usually people don't. They're very happy with just like a couple, but it is a good way to get more value out of that those 10 card slots because you're getting very powerful cards. I don't think that there are any level 5 talents other than putting everything into empirical hypothesis. Fieldwork seems pretty good. Yep, that seems like just a generically good card, right? Um, First aid, I don't think you want, but I suppose you could. Like this one is interesting, along with a few others. If you're trying to use that ability to get some resources back, right, you can't use up all the supplies because this card just discards itself. All right. Um, Again, I'm more interested in the off-class cards. We've hyper awareness. We've kind of talked about it before as being the good uh, talents, but you know maybe this isn't so great because Streetwise is those very same stats, and it doesn't really cost you much. Keen Eye level 0. Maybe that's kind of interesting. Maybe. We've got On Your Own level 3, which probably does you nothing because I don't think you can take any survivor events. Okay. Pickpocketing is already fast at level 2, but I guess the level 0 version you can put into play for a little bit cheaper. Quick Study? Clue drop, clue drop. No. Safeguard, though, I think either the level 0 or 2 seems like a nice idea. Again, with only a third of your deck, and you probably want to double up on the cards, you're thinking about basically choosing 5 of these, maybe 6 if you want a couple, or 7 if you want a couple one-ofs, right? Steady-handed? I don't know. Okay, wait. No, this is kind of interesting. So steady-handed is one of those, if you would succeed at a skill test, exhaust it, you either succeed by 1 more or 1 less. In this case, with rogue cards that care about you succeeding by 2 or more, this can actually help you do that. I've not seen this played in Trish, which I suppose is the other home for it. I don't know how much you take this if you care about the horror healing, but that's not bad in Rogue anyway. But this kind of a weird half daring maneuver. Okay, I can see that being an interesting ad. Is it powerful enough for the card slot? I don't know. Survival technique. Okay. Choose a card you own that is attached to your location and exhaust it. Add the card to your hand. Um, what in the rogue card pool does this? There's the what's the one that is exhaust an enemy or something and you discover a clue like under surveillance or something? That may not actually work though because it discards itself. I don't know. Maybe there's something you could do here, but unsure if that's worth your effort. Try and try again. We have level 1 and level 3 versions here. After a skill test is failed, if you committed a card, you get it back. I wish the card was like on an investigator, right? Which I guess is Silas. So anyway, well prepared too. I think this is pretty sick. So if you remember about Jenny's guns, they have a lot of icons on them. Let's look at them again. They've got 2 wilds and an agility icon. So well prepared says exhaust it, choose an asset you control, and you'll have lots of other talents, by the way, too. And you get plus X skill value for the skill tests where it's a number of matching skill icons. So the guns have a lot, and then basically all of these talents that we've been seeing, like physical training, once you get to level 2 or 4, they have boatloads of icons on them. I mean, this is pretty great, right? So I think you really want well prepared in this deck. I think it just does a lot for you. Having all threes is, you need a way to pass tests, and I think you can do a lot with Jenny. But again, I'm not sure how much that's worth a third of your deck, right? If everything you're doing here is just help me pass a test, your other 20 cards had better be some pretty good action compression. She does get a teeny tiny bit just to play these cards, right? That's great, but you need other things, I think, to win the game. Let's keep looking through. Oh, well, we're going to see, if we haven't already, a lot of these Edge of the Earth multi-class cards, which are talents that are kind of like the other ones that we saw a second ago that are you spend money for stat boosts. These are helping you pay for cards as well as giving you stat boosts on those cards. So Antiquary, right, is one she already was probably taking or thinking about because of the favor cards. But is there something that she couldn't have had before that suddenly looks kind of cool? I don't know. So she couldn't have taken prophetic. So now she can fortune spell or spirit. Probably not interesting. I mean, these have cool icons, right? Icons are neat. Sleuth, charm tactic, or tome. Probably not. Yeah, they're cheaper to put into play, so you still might want to think about crafty and bruiser for exactly that reason. So again, those don't take up the 10 out of class slots. So you still get their abilities, though, to put them into play for cheaper. Okay. And then we're at the bottom of the list now. Oh, I guess we're missing a few here. I kind of jumped over. Okay, disguise I think is kind of neat to be able to put into play for cheap and for not an action. I think this card is good, but also it is not always worth your time if you have to spend a bunch of money and an action on it. I think this is a great card for Parallel Jenny. In the know, sort of interesting. She has other ways to boost her intellect, so using this is not a terrible idea. Okay, I can kind of see that. Pathfinder, yeah, like one of the best cards in the game. You just take this because it's really good. It's sort of like Safeguard, right? It's kind of like Safeguard in that it gives you a free move, but this one it's on your own terms. Okay. Sign Magic is funny. Silent Magic level 3 is also funny. This one gives you an extra action to activate spells or rituals. Oh man, what would you possibly do in the rogue class? We've got Borrowed Time, which is a ritual, and then you have to have another one. Blur level 1. The Speak to the Dead we saw earlier. Yeah. Okay, I mean, someone will figure out something funny to do here, and maybe we'll get some new cards in the next expansion that will be. Oh, by the way, new expansion was announced. It is the Drowned City, but we have no idea about the cards in it yet. Soon, hopefully. Sleuth, we talked about already. These two, Something Worth Fighting For and True Grit, these guys give you soak. This has an interesting idea since they cost 3. You can put 2 horror on this or 2 damage on this one, discard it with your ability, and get the 3 resources out of it. Is that worth some kind of a... Well, I mean, it's maybe free to play it. You put the 2 damage down, you get the money back later. I mean, that's good, but it feels like... I don't know, that's what Cherish Keepsake and Leather Coat do, and they're not that great, right? Yeah, I mean, maybe you do that, but probably you don't. I think you're thinking about, when I've gone through this list, you're thinking about like 1 or 2 of those composures, or the talents like Dig Deep, etc. You're probably getting something like Dirty Fighting, but that doesn't count towards your 10. So you probably think about Pathfinder. I mean, it's just such a good card. Well prepared. I think I would take this. That's all I'm thinking just going through here. Clearly there are some good rogue talents that you can just take advantage of your ability with, but I don't think you want to junk up the entire deck with talents. I don't think you want too much more than your Empirical Hypothesis too. This is a crazy card in rogues, right? This maybe makes me think you don't need Lucky Cigarette Case 3. You can just play Empirical and save your accessory slot for something else. What that is, I don't know. Just to check, everything here was an asset, right? Yeah. Okay, well, that's basically all of my thoughts on Parallel Jenny, which literally just announced not too long ago. haven't theory crafted any actual builds other than here are some cards that might be interesting, I think you can just take all the other good rogue stuff. But maybe we'll take one last look at her cards. The new twin 45s makes you want to think about, can I do some more combat and make some money off of those? So maybe you lean more into that. But I can see even just scientific theory letting you do both investigation and fighting pretty well. Yeah, all right. Well, thanks for watching, and look forward to more content that is going to be hopefully revealed during this preview season for the next expansion, and maybe we'll get some other goodies at Gen Con as well. I'll see you later.